Shall we begin?
So, good evening, friends. I am Aarti Saur, CEO of Parisar Asha. Parisar Asha is Mumbai-based not-for-profit organization working in the field of education for the past 38 years. We are also running one helpline, mental health helpline, with the great support of Capgemini by the name as Positive Parenting and Child Helpline. So we have a team of professionals. We have psychologists, counselors, psychiatrists on board. They are helping our schools and parents to deal with different issues related to mental health. And post-COVID, we have also extended this helpline to everyone. So anybody in the family can always approach us and take help of our mental health helpline, because still we have in our society there's a lot of stigma attached to mental health. So post COVID, we also started with this webinar series, Ask the Expert. Initially, we thought maybe, like after 4-5 sessions, we may stop. But then we started getting really very good response. And now people are waiting for what is the next topic. And we were very lucky that we could get all these stalwarts from the industry to come for our webinar. So today also we have another interesting topic. It's more than interesting. It's like I can say kahani ghar ghar ki, because it's the issue which is like a burning issue. It's a very hot topic because we will be talking about anger management. Today you will find everybody is so angry. I remember a film when I was a kid, अल्बर्ट पिंटो को गुस्सा क्यों आता है, बट आप यहाँ पे देखोगे तो हर कोई आज अल्बर्ट पिंटो है, हर एक को गुस्सा बहुत ज्यादा आ जाता है. एंड देर आर सो मेनी फनी रीजंस ऑल्सो, मतलब ऐसे नहीं कि देर आर वेरी सीरियस रीजंस. किसी को कोई भी चीज पे गुस्सा आ सकता है, बिकॉज वी कंडक्ट मेनी सेशंस विद पेरेंट्स, टीचर्स, एंड बेसिकली वी वर्क विद स्कूल यूनिवर्स. सो आई ऑलवेज आस्क दिस वन क्वेश्चन, कितने लोगों को गुस्सा आता है? तो ऑलमोस्ट 99% पीपल से कि गुस्सा बहुत आता है एंड दे डोंट हैव एनी कंट्रोल ऑन देयर एंगर. And this anger is actually leading, not only spoiling their career, their personal life, their family relationships, but also ruining their lives. So it's really, I mean, aaj dekhte hain to husband is angry with his wife, wife is angry with husband, children are angry on parents, parents are angry with their children. We are angry with government, we are angry with China nowadays. If you go on the road, you will find that it's like a road rage. किसी ने आपकी गाड़ी को थोड़ा सा ब्रश किया तो it's like a big fight. And I really wonder, like I really appreciate the women in the Virar local. Early morning, they will have so much of stamina to fight on the fourth seat. So you will find anger is so common everywhere. And the worst part is we don't know what is, like actually giving that trigger and how to control that anger. So we will be talking about this anger, like we will be understanding different types of angers, triggers, and how to control this anger. But before that, before I actually introduce our today's guest speaker, who is a very well-known personality in this field of psychiatry, I would like to have a quick, chat with all of you. You can just type in your chat box what triggers you. I mean, you can write down the silliest thing which gives you that anger, that triggers your anger. So quickly you can just, type, so that it will help our today's guest speaker also to understand people can get angry on so many things. Yes, quickly. People who are watching us on Facebook, they can also start typing. Yeah, hi Varsha. Quickly you can type your trigger. It can be silly, it can be simple, it can be small, whatever you feel, which gives you anger. Yeah, write your trigger points. Pointing weakness. Yeah, participants, let's make it more interactive. Okay. When others do not accept what you say. demotivation, injustice. Okay. Ill manners, untidiness, when hungry. Okay, that too, I think we all get very angry when we are hungry. Okay, so I'm sure, okay, there are many, okay, I expect others to be as prompt, as responsible, as dedicated as myself. Oh, Mitra ji, okay, good evening, sir. How are you? Unfortunately, the world is full of different shades of gray, not just black and white. Yeah, that's true. Emotions are hurt, okay, when they don't obey. So okay, the list is endless, so let me just quickly introduce our today's guest speaker, who will be actually solving all these issues related anger. I mean, he will be giving his solutions to us. Definitely it is up to us how are we going to implement, because you know, like in Marathi there is saying kalta sagal apan valat nahi. So the problem is, we all know, we are all Google people, we Google everything, we have all the answers, but only problem is when it comes to actually implement. So let's quickly, I will, you know, like invite Dr. Kersi Chawda. He's a well-known name in the field of psychiatry. He's a past president of Bombay Psychiatry Society, consultant at PD Hinduja National, Hinduja Healthcare, and Sir H.N. Reliance Foundation Hospital. He had been chairperson of the task force of Indian Psychiatric Society dealing with social psychiatry and counseling. He is currently chairperson of IPS task force dealing with college psychiatry. He has more than 35 years of experience, and he had been part of the first panel of the Maharashtra government that laid down concessions for learning disabilities. And his area of interest is he loves to work with kids. So, sir, that's why I invited you, because our entire universe is all about kids. We deal with, you know, different types of children from different socio-economical background, and we work with schools very closely. So I welcome once again, doctor. So before we start, can you please like help us in understanding the psychology behind this anger? What exactly is this anger as an emotion?
Okay. Thank you for inviting me. It's always a pleasure. I know you're doing terrific work, so it's always a pleasure to work with somebody who's doing terrific work. Now, when we're dealing with anger, one of the most important things that we have to realize is that it's actually something that follows a certain path in the brain. So when you get angry, there's a part in the brain called the amygdala. Okay, that's a very important part of the brain. And the amygdala affects something else called the hypothalamus, and the hypothalamus then affects something called the pituitary gland. Now, we've all heard of the pituitary gland, because if the pituitary gland doesn't work properly, then we're going to land up being dwarfs. We don't land up growing properly. However, what we are looking at over here is the pituitary gland releases certain hormones, and it activates the adrenal gland, which is a small little gland on the top of the kidneys. Now, why is all this important? Because when this gets activated, the adrenals start releasing something called a stress hormones. And these stress hormones are the ones which are responsible for causing us to get angry. And the three most important ones are considered to be cortisol, adrenaline, and noradrenaline. Now, I don't expect that the audience is medical, but you should know that it is not some hocus pocus that happens. It's not necessary that because you had a bad childhood that you're angry. It's not necessary that because there's an environmental stimulus, you get angry. Today, everything becomes biological to a large extent. So we can actually see all these things happening. Now, I mentioned those stress hormones, and when cortisol is removed, which is one of the most important stress hormones, it actually causes the neurons, which are the nerve cells, to absorb more, to allow, to accept more calcium. And when there is an overload of calcium inside, the cells start firing and they actually die. So technically, when we're getting angry, we're actually killing our cells in the brain, which is a very big thing. And you know, there are two parts in the brain which get very, very affected by this. There's something called the prefrontal cortex. Now, why is this important? Because this is the part which actually depends on which good judgment and good decisions occur. Now imagine if that part of the brain where there is good judgment and good decision which occurs properly suddenly starts dying. The neurons don't function properly. There's an overfiring. Then not surprisingly, when we are angry, we'll end up making bad decisions and have bad judgments. So again, that's a biological thing. When people sometimes say, I'm making a bad judgment, I don't know what happens when I get angry, I say things I don't want to do. Yes, there's a biological cause for all of this. Your prefrontal cortex has got affected. Similarly, there's something in the hippocampus, which is another part of the brain, which is something that affects short-term memory. And when there's too much cortisol, too much of the stress hormones, again, it causes an affectation over there. So you actually land up having a memory loss. So very often, you'll say, supposing you have a fight with your spouse and you say a whole bunch of things, and then your spouse brings it up the next day and you'll say, but I never said that. And you actually believe you haven't said it. And of course, the spouse gets angrier, so then the anger gets more aggravated. But the bottom line is that it is actually affecting the hippocampus. And when the hippocampus gets affected, your short-term memory gets affected. So there's an actual biological reason as to why you don't remember. Now, if there are spouses watching my program, don't use that as an excuse and say, oh, I said whatever I said and I don't remember it at all. And the doctor said that and all that. But it is really based on something biological. What else happens? We sometimes feel this pain, we feel this anger more easily, etc., etc. If there is too much of cortisol, everybody has heard of serotonin. All of us who have seen Munna Bhai, talked of chemical locha and all that, which is one of the things that is important in our psychiatric illnesses. But in addition to that, one of the most important neurotransmitters is something called serotonin. And if there is too much of cortical damage, serotonin actually starts to reduce. When it starts to reduce, you actually feel pain more and you get more aggressive and you don't start feeling good. So by and large, when you're angry, you don't feel good. I've never ever come across a person who says, oh, I'm so happy when I'm angry. Everybody says, I feel terrible when I'm angry. I don't know why I get angry. I know the aftermath is going to be terrible. I know I'm going to feel bad. I know I'm going to cry after that. I know I'm going to feel like a fool after that. I know I'm going to say stupid things after that. Guess what? Everything has a biological cause. So if we are looking at attempting to control our anger, we have to be aware of the fact that it's not just coming from our heads, it's actually coming from our brain. It's coming from a structural thing. It's coming from neurotransmitters. It's coming from hormones. It's coming from things which can actually now be measured, and MRIs and all can be done. No getting away from the fact that yes, there are also social and environmental factors. I guess if you have been brought up in an abusive environment, if you saw that the only way your parents dealt with their own emotions was to get angry, you'd consider it to be a natural emotion. So when you get angry, and when I don't like something, I get angry. If somebody doesn't listen to me, I'll get angry, which some of the guys have said in the chat box. So there's an environmental cause as well. And very often, quite correctly, like that gentleman said, if our biological things are not looked after, if I'm hungry, the tendency towards me getting angry is actually more. So we laugh at it, but it really is true. Sometimes when I'm dealing with people and I ask them, what are the triggers? A whole bunch of them tell me, I haven't slept well the previous night. I've had too much of alcohol the previous night, which has affected my judgment. I haven't eaten properly. I haven't hydrated myself properly. I haven't had enough water. These are all very, very important factors as well. Now, it's very simplistic. I'm not even in the least suggesting, why are you angry? Because I don't eat. Now, that's really unlikely. But it's certainly one of the aggravating factors. It's certainly something that is very much in our control. So towards the end of this seminar, when we are going to, of this webinar, when we are going to talk about what I can do to control my own anger, I'm going to say, ensure that your lifestyle is good, which means don't eat irregularly, which a lot of us do, eat sensibly, which a lot of us don't, and things like that. So that is one very important thing. To come back to that, Asha, one of the things that we are...
Sir, Aarti.
Sorry. My dementia coming in. Aarti, one of the things that a lot of people say is anger a good emotion? Of course, it's a good emotion. All emotions are good. It's how we manifest the anger that is important. If when I get angry, if somebody doesn't do what I want, and I tell that person, I'm really upset. You've done something that I don't really like. That's fine. If I assert myself and I feel I'm being pushed around, if my boss keeps dumping work on me because I'm a good worker and he says, you got to do it. If I assert myself and say, this is too much for me to do, it will not be possible for me to do it. Please give it to somebody else. I mean, provided it's allowed in your organization, it's a very good thing to do. So we have good anger. I mean, if it's anger, you might call it assertive anger, you might call it just being assertive. But imagine that you've lost your, I mean, imagine that, say you're in a relationship and your boyfriend or your girlfriend does something that you don't like, and you pick up your cell phone and you smash it. That's not appropriate. So anger is appropriate. Acting out is certainly not appropriate. And what we get very frightened about in today's generation, like when you spoke about road rage is terrible acting out. You scrape somebody's car, you get out, you start hitting each other, you start banging doors, you start screaming, you start abusing. That is not normal manifestation of anger. That is a manifestation, I mean, not normal meaning, yes, it is normal in a sense. It is not appropriate manifestation of anger. Visualize that we have how many millions in our country, and if everybody lost their temper and everybody started doing exactly what they wanted to do in terms of an acting out situation, we would not be in a good space. So yes, anger is normal. Happiness is normal. Being unhappy may be normal once in a while. Being ecstatic may be normal once in a while. Crying is normal once in a while. Anything taken in excess may not be considered appropriate. And the way we manifest it certainly is very, very important in how we deal with an extremely important biological emotion like anger. So it is imperative for us to say, yes, it's okay to get angry, but it is imperative for me to know how I manifest my anger.
Yeah, so you can also tell us about this, what is justifiable anger? I mean,
now I really don't know what those are. These are nice little terms.
yes, because in psychology, so many terms are used.
Terms are there, and though they don't really mean much.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, some people mean, I mean, for want of a better thing, I'd say, when you feel that you are justified in getting angry. So some of the examples which I spoke about, where you feel that, you know, there's too much of stuff being pushed on you, or you know, supposing I'm walking on the road and I see a man hitting a woman, I will certainly get angry and I'll go over there and say, what the hell do you think you're doing? If I see a kid being abused by a parent, I'm going to walk up to that parent and say, this is not the way you deal with it. I'd probably call that justifiable anger. If at all we have a term like that, which we actually don't. More important than that, there's something in terms of volatility. You know, I mean, sometimes I have people coming in, some of my patients come in and they very proudly say, you know, my anger's at the tip of my nose and I can't control it. Ha ha, that's not very good. That's certainly not very good. You should control. I mean, being an adult, being a responsible person means that you have to control. If we get into a situation where we say that, oh, I lose my temper and I'm going to start breaking things, you might be having a psychiatric disorder. And that's again what I want to come in here. It's not only psychosocial, it's not only, you know, environmental and stuff like that. Very often when you have a psychiatric illness, one of the manifestations might actually be that you lose your temper much, much more than what is considered appropriate. And talk about stigmatization, talk about everything. I mean, all my colleagues are, you know, having OPDs which are overflowing. So I guess people are seeking help. So for the people listening in here, if you find that either you or somebody you know is constantly in a volatile situation, losing temper, being aggressive, talking in a way that, you know, is not the best thing in the world, maybe the guy has or the woman has a psychiatric illness. In fact, there's a very well-known psychiatric illness called intermittent explosive disorder, which is one of the new things which has come out in the last DSM-5, which is one of our Bibles for psychiatry, where a person actually intermittently just loses his temper for no real appropriate reason. And it's crazy. There may not be a real reason. I mean, there may just be something that is perceived. Very often, again, if you have situations where maybe you're a little suspicious or a little paranoid about things, you might get very scared. And sometimes fear may make you become angry. You know, if I'm frightened that people are looking at me, if I'm frightened that people are following me, if I'm frightened that my mind can be read by somebody, I might lose my temper and say, why is this happening? What is happening to me? So you'll end up getting aggressive. And everybody says, no, there's nothing. But there is something. There may be a psychiatric illness. So let's look at it in the perspective that all angers are not necessarily non-psychiatric illnesses. So if a person is constantly losing his temper, it might be a good idea to get a proper evaluation done by a mental health professional, psychologist, psychiatrist, etc. Especially if there's a family history of a mental illness, that's even more important, because today genes play a very, very important role in what we see happening in our clients' lives. One other thing, there's something which is not anger, but there's something where, I'm going to show you what I mean by not doing what you want me to do. So I am the boss and I tell you, please finish this by 7 o'clock today. And I say, yes, boss, I'll do it. And I'm going to say, I'm going to show you. And I don't finish it by 7 o'clock today. And I don't finish it by 7 o'clock tomorrow. And I don't finish it by 7 o'clock the next day. And I'll always say, oh, but there's a reason. This has happened. That has happened. I'm trying. This is actually what we call being passive aggressive. Passive aggressive aggression, in a sense, is also a very common manifestation that we see today with a lot of our patients. And because the person is so nice and so gentle and in a sense never says no, the person who's at the receiving end and not getting his work done actually starts thinking that there's something wrong with him or her because things are not happening. And this is a fantastic way of causing somebody to really get angry and upset. And you're saying, but I'm trying, no. So passive aggressive. In fact, there's even a personality type like that. And we have to get into a situation where that also has to be identified. One important thing about passive aggressive is the procrastination. It's never done. It is just never done. One of the most frightening varieties of aggression is what we call self-harm.
Right.
So I get angry with myself. I think I'm not good enough. I have a very poor self-esteem. I think that what I'm doing is not good. I think that, it's just by chance that I've reached where I've reached. I'm not a good guy, etc., etc. And I'm not going to hit anybody for that, but I'm going to hit myself, or I'm going to hurt myself. And sometimes I've had people coming in even at big, at very big positions, and they come in and they just talk about how bad they feel about themselves. And when you ask them, are you doing anything about that? And they might say, yes, I bang my head on the wall, I cut myself. And these are very, very frightening manifestations of having dealt with their own anger, which is something that is towards your own self. Now, is it better to hit yourself than to hit somebody else? No. It's like saying, is it better to put my hand in a wolf's mouth or in a jackal's mouth? It's the same thing. Both are inappropriate. Both should not happen. Both need intervention. Both can be controlled and cured, and this will not happen again, provided you seek help. And now this provided you seek help is the most important thing in a situation like this, because a lot of people are very embarrassed about it. It might be okay for me to come in and say that, my girlfriend is doing this, my boyfriend is doing this, but for me to come in and say that I'm hitting myself is not so easy. So these are things that we see happening all the time. The other thing is, somebody had spoken about being judgmental. I think one of the questions, or you read out or something of the sort. The hassle with Indians and the hassle with a lot of people from a lot of countries is that they believe that somehow they have the right to assess and they have the right to judge, even though they know nothing about what they're doing, and they're never going to put themselves. It's never going to be possible for them to be in that person's situation. Oh, the mother is never available. She's doing her own thing. Oh, daddy is having an extramarital affair. Oh, they're so rich, they don't give a damn. How do you know? You don't know. So keep your judgments to yourself, because this judgmental thing on occasion, when it comes out, especially with your interactions with people, can cause a tremendous amount of anxiety and sadness and anger in people. If I look at you and say, oh my God, look at her. She thinks that she's the Queen of Sheba. Who does she think she is? That's disgusting. I've made a judgment. I made an evaluation, which is not based on anything. And imagine if I actually verbalized it to you, I'd never find myself on your program again. So, so these are the things that we always should avoid. Let us not be judgmental. And almost invariably, a person who's judgmental is also a person who's angry. You know, you're constantly angry because you're judging people and you're finding that they're not good enough. Now, what is this good enough? What is the standard you're looking at? Who the hell do you think you are that you're kind of, you know, saying that he's not doing as well as I am? I'm this perfectionist. Why can't people be like me? Very boring if there are clones, very boring if everybody does the same thing. One of the nice things about being alive and one of the nice things about being a human being is everybody is so different. Yes, some people's are pain and you'd wish that you could, you know, that they weren't there in your life, but at least it makes life interesting. Otherwise, it'd be very boring to just be doing the same thing over and over again, and the same kind of person over and over again, who reacts in the same silly way for every situation. God, we are not robots, we're not robotic individuals.
Yes.
We all have our own ideas, our own thinking, our own, and that's what makes us all fantastic people. And
Absolutely.
one part of being a fantastic person is that I'm going to do things which you may not like, and you may do things that I don't like. I'm not going to judge you. I may not like what you're doing. That's a different matter. Absolutely. I'm allowed not to like you. I'm allowed to have a different point of view. Let's look at it when kids are growing up. You know, I remember when I was a child, I mean, even though it doesn't look to, sorry, I think we lost for a while.
Yeah.
You know, when I was a kid, I used to, you know, I used to have long hair. I mean, you wouldn't believe that now because I have hardly any hair, but I had long hair. I used to listen to music which was different. I mean, I look at my photographs and I was thinking to myself, good Lord, I don't know how my parents tolerated me. I would have thrown myself out of the house a long time ago.
Okay.
But we all learn. We are all different. We all do things which are different. Being different is not necessarily wrong, especially when we are dealing with kids, and I deal with kids quite a lot. And I see parents losing their, you know, they're losing their cool because
Yes.
kids are doing different things which parents don't understand. And then the parents lose their temper. And then they say, oh, he makes me lose my temper. Excuse me, how old are you? 45. How old's your kid? 15, 16. Who's the guy supposed to be more in control? The parent. And if you're not more in control, don't blame it on the kid. Now, yes, there are some fantastic parents. They absolutely lose their cool. They can't take it anymore. They have tremendous amount of problems. So I'm not being in judgment of the parents' travails as well. But there are lots and lots of times when I actually have to teach parents to gain control over their own emotions so that they don't act out. And this whole thing of, he is making me lose my temper. Nobody can make you lose your temper. You lose your own temper. You choose to lose your temper. You choose to do things to show somebody that you're the boss. And in the process, you lose your temper. And guess what? When you lose your temper, half the battle is lost. So don't lose your temper.
Wonderful. Doctor, you have actually answered my next question. So I am not going to once again repeat my question.
Okay.
And in fact, you had told me that you start and then I will take it. So, but here I would like to ask you one thing, because since I was telling you about our helpline, we are doing this as free of cost. We are not charging anything because we are
That's
catering
wonderful.
to that. We are catering to that segment of society where, you know, like sending children to the school is like a big thing. And then understanding these mental health issues is absolutely, they are not aware, neither, you know, like they are for. So there we are, you know, like conducting parenting sessions. These are also free parenting sessions for them to just understand, you know, like make them understand ki what are the difficulties your child is going through because of you. Because when the children, they come to us, we realize somewhere the problem is, you know, like originated with their parents only. And especially we cater to those lower income group schools where the family environment is absolutely very bad, you know. So that's where we get all those cases where parents, they come to us, they are saying कि ये बच्चा सुनता नहीं है, बहुत गुस्सा करता है, ये तोड़ फोड़ता है, ये you know, like मारता है, मारपीट करता है. And children, they do these things, but somewhere even parents are also responsible for that. So what will you suggest in these kind of scenarios?
Okay, so before I come to the suggestions, let me talk about the effects that losing our temper has on
Yes.
people. I've already spoken about memory getting affected, and I've already spoken about, you know, I mean, not making the best decisions at that time because of certain things that happen in certain parts of the brain. But it'll be not very surprising to know that getting angry actually has an effect of affecting every single system in the brain, in the body. So your heart rate starts pumping, which all of us know. When we lose our temper, our heart goes thuk, 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 thuk. Sometimes we get a throbbing over here, which is actually the blood vessels which are going thup, 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 because there's just so much of energy happening. Very often we start screaming and shouting. And when we start screaming and shouting, not surprisingly, our mouth becomes very dry. We start getting a rasping cough on occasion. We start getting breathless on occasion. Not many people know that sometimes at this stage, you actually feel like running to the toilet, because there are other systems which get affected as well. And you get this feeling of urgency. I've got to go. And you go and you get a sense of relief. It affects your endocrinal system. It affects your digestive system. Very often you start getting cramps. You might start getting a feeling of acidity, because all of these neurotransmitters and all of these hormones and release factors which are sent out when you get stressed out also work on the acids in your stomach, and it gives you this kind of funny feeling that comes up. Very often when we get very angry, we actually start retching and things like that. I have kids who are telling me that when I lose my temper, I feel like vomiting on occasion. That is also a very well-known thing. So it actually affects every system in your body. Sometimes kids, when they complain of a headache or they complain of a body ache, and you're actually, all parents will want to rule out a physical illness, obviously. They will go to the pediatrician, they will get the test done, and then the pediatrician might say, there's nothing that I can find. There's obviously some stressor. There's something that's affecting him. That's something that's making him depressed or anxious or stressed out or whatever else it is. Go see the psychiatrist or the psychologist. So stress plays an extremely important role, even in aches and pains. In fact, in young kids, sometimes the only symptom of an actual depression is pains which are unexplained. You have a headache or a stomach ache or something like that, and you do all the investigations and you find nothing wrong. And then you send to a psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist takes an evaluation and finds that there's something happening, may give medication, may do therapy, and all of those go away. So we've got to be aware of the fact that stress and anger can have an actual physical effect. My heart can get affected. I might have high blood pressure. My respiration gets affected, so I find it difficult to breathe. I feel like running to the toilet. My stomach starts paining. My hand starts trembling. My throat becomes very dry. I get a headache. I get a thumping feeling. I might feel like vomiting. All of these things are known to happen. And all of these things, if they happen continuously, which means if you're constantly angry and your body is consistently facing up to these kind of reactions, it is then not surprising that your body starts showing wear and tear. So, when we talk of, oh, I'm chronically angry, that is the way I am, that is my personality, ha ha, you're ruining your own self. So don't be so happy about it. Be a little careful. Do things that it doesn't happen, because then you'll go to the doctor and say, can't I do something to make it better? Difficult. So prevention over here is always better than cure. Prevention over here is so much more important. Prevention over here is not so difficult. If I can prevent myself from getting angry all the time, then I'd probably be in a better physical state. I'll certainly be in a better mental state. My systems will be functioning better. And considering now that we grow older and older, and most of us live till 80, it would be nice if at least our last years was not comprising only wear and tear that has happened to all parts of our body, but that we were still physically also doing well, even though we are aging. Now, to come back to what you were saying. Once you know that you're losing your temper and that you're losing it quite a bit, what are the things that we would suggest in order to control it? Lots of things. Probably the most important thing that I suggest to everybody, because I love doing it myself, is exercise. It's a natural way of channelizing a lot of negative energy. If I'm with a bad patient and I'm angry, the next day I go to the gym and I'm lifting heavy weights and I'm giving galis to those weights, and I leave it and I come back and I tell myself, oh, I'm so calm, and it works. I suggest to everybody. Now they've actually done research on it, and they found something like 45 minutes, say half an hour, 45 minutes, about 5 times a week of good physical activity seems to help. Now, somebody's written pranayama is best. With all due respect, nothing is the best. Everything is the same. Any kind of physical activity is the same. Some people do very well with pranayam. Some people do very well with going to the gym. Some people do very well with walking. Some people cycle. Some people play a game. If you're playing badminton 4 times a week, fantastic. If you're playing tennis, if you're going for a swim. So nothing is the best. Everything works. And they all work more or less the same. So let's not give anything undue importance. If you find pranayam is great, wonderful, do it. Teach it to others. It's great. So exercise is extremely important. It seems to channelize a whole bunch of negative emotions, makes you much, much, much calmer. There are so many of my patients who have come in and said that we can see the difference when I don't exercise or I don't do whatever I'm doing regularly in order to, feel fit, etc. If I don't do it for a week, the next week I start screaming at people. I kick my dog. I shout at my wife. I feel like beating up my kids. Not very good. And they see the difference immediately when they exercise. Now, please don't take it that exercise is the only thing you've got to do. It's like saying, if you fractured your hand, I'm not going to say do only yoga. Yes, that would be dumb. Right. But certainly exercise is important. Point number 2. One of the things that we talk about is, especially when you're losing your temper, I tell people, visualize a traffic light. Okay, so you've got red, you've got amber, and you've got green. Imagine you're getting angry. Now, when we get angry, all of us manifest it differently. I've asked people, what happens when you get angry? Tell me the physical manifestation. Some people say I get a thump here. Some people say my voice goes up. Some people say I can feel my heart going thuk, thuk, thuk. Some people say the tips of my ears start throbbing. So everybody has their own signs and symptoms which tell them that they are about to lose their temper and which tell them that they're going to do things which they need to stop. So what I tell them is, when these things start, and actually before they reach the stage where you explode, visualize that there's this red light which is flashing at you and saying, stop, stop, stop. And pay heed to it, which actually means we have to look at our own selves and see what it is in our own selves, which is a manifestation of my going to lose my anger. Now, I try to think for myself, for example, and I find that my heart starts beating faster and I start getting breathless. I've asked my friends, a lot of them say that they feel that this part starts going thup, thup, thup. Okay. One of my friends said his hand starts shaking and he never realized it till I asked him what happens. And then he said, I'll check and I'll see, and his hands start to shake. So all of us have different things that tell us that we are about to lose our temper. Now, when we know we are about to lose our temper, what I tell them is, stop what you're doing. This whole thing of, oh, I must reach a conclusion today. Nonsense. I must reach the end now. Nonsense. You don't have to. Take a step back. Take a few deep breaths. Leave the environment. Go do some spot jogging. Splash cold water on your face. Come back after half an hour. You'll be calmer and you'll be more likely to come up with a solution which makes sense, rather than lose your temper and then regret losing your temper. It's like saying, oh, but I didn't mean it. Dear boy, if you come to me, my clinic, and about 7 times I'm very good, and the 8th and the 9th time when you come in, something has happened to me and you come in and I just slap you and I say, oh, I didn't mean it. Would you come back to me? No, you wouldn't. Why do you expect that people are going to tolerate you? Why do you expect that people should accept you? Oh, but she should understand I'm like that. He should understand I'm like that. What nonsense. Why should they? Nobody should.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. Everybody should attempt to be the kind of person and show the kind of behavior that they want them to, that you'd like to face yourself. So think before you speak, have that thing going flash, flash, flash in front of you. Take a break at that time, and in that break, do things that hopefully will calm you down, so that when you actually eventually open your mouth, you will say things that are more likely to make sense. You will say things which fall in the decorum that you'd like to see, and you will say things that hopefully will not cause more problems to the opposite side. The other thing, Indians are known to give bhashans.
Very true.
Right? What can be said in 2 sentences will be said in 25 sentences, and you repeat the same thing in 7 different ways, just so that you are sure that the other person has understood. There is nothing as irritating as that. So often I have kids telling me, when my parents start talking to me, after the first 3 minutes, I switch off and they go on for 20 minutes. And that's true. They've actually done research and they found something like 5 minutes is approximately the amount of time that a person pays attention to another
Absolutely.
person's
Yes.
bhashan, in a sense. After that,
Yeah.
you can...
We get children telling ye pakati hai karke.
Exactly. And they, we actually should listen to our kids. They give us so much information. So even if you're talking to, people who you don't like, and you feel that you must give this bhashan, it's a good idea not to give a bhashan for more than about 3 to 5 minutes. So if you say something like, what you have done, I don't like. I wish it is not repeated again. It really upsets me, and I don't think I should be upset. And you have the knowledge to understand that you can control it. That's so much better than, what is wrong with you? We have brought you up so well. I have told you this 27 times before. Remember the last time you said this when Granny had come, and even that time I told, who the hell cares?
There is one more very famous sentence by every parent. They are saying कि तुम्हारा नसीब अच्छा था तो ये घर में जन्म लिया तुमने.
I absolutely agree. Those are the common things that we keep hearing. And those are the common things that actually drive everybody insane, isn't it? So
Absolutely.
this is something that we must remember. Let's not give bhashan. Now, when I mentioned what people say, one of the useful things is to make yourself the main subject. So it's not, you are a fool. It is, I get upset that you talk like that. So make yourself the subject. It is not, how can you behave like this? What is wrong with you? It is, I get extremely upset and perturbed when I see your behavior. So make yourself the subject of the discussion, and you will see the difference in the way it is accepted by the other person. The most important thing is, let the other person feel that you care. If you're giving this bhashan, if you're only shouting, if you're only screaming. Okay, let me go to another slightly different tangential thing. If you're talking with kids, since you are dealing so much with children, sometimes I have parents coming in and saying, my kid does this, my kid does this, my kid does this. And I tell the parent, okay, your kid is doing everything that you're saying that he is doing. I want you to think of the last 10 verbal or physical transactions that you have had with your child, where you haven't spoken of school or homework or tuition or marks or what the teacher said or how you got into trouble. And we are very, very, very lucky if they have 1 out of 10 transactions which do not encompass that. So what does that mean? That means for a child, the only thing that happens seems to be related to academics and school, which is sad.
Absolutely.
If we kind of collate that into adulthood, sometimes I ask, husbands and wives, talk of the last 10 transactions you've had with yourselves, where you've spoken of things other than what your kids are doing, how much money you're making, how irritating it is to be in the kitchen all the time, how painful the in-laws are, etc., etc. And once again, most of the time we are only conversing about things which actually bring us down. And it's then not surprising that we are down all the time. Now, I'm not a nitwit. I'm not going to say that these are not important things. Of course, they're important things. If I don't talk to my wife about my in-laws, if I don't talk to my wife about, my financial issues or how I'm feeling or how my collaborator stabbed me in the back or something like that, I mean, that's not what our relationship is all about. But it can't only be that.
Absolutely.
So let's talk of fun and games, and let's talk of, going abroad when the pandemic is over, and let's talk of having a nice glass of wine and things like that. There's good in life in spite of the nonsensical stuff that we find around us. One part of reducing our anger is finding positives. One part of reducing our anger is finding happiness and humor. And that is why I talk of humor all the time. I'm considered to be, I'm a Baba. That explains it all. Babas are supposed to make people laugh. So when we talk about humor, try to find humor. And in the worst of times, if we can laugh at what is happening, if we can laugh at what is the sadness around us to some extent, I mean, it would be inappropriate if I see somebody falling and breaking a leg, and if I start laughing, I mean, there's something wrong with me. But by and large, even though I find myself at times very down and very upset at certain things that happen, we still try to find humor. And if we find the humor and we can make ourselves laugh, there is an immediate upliftment of our emotions. And isn't that very important? Yes, there are 100 things which are horrible, but let's focus on 10 things which are great. And if we can do that consistently, our perspectives change, we become much more positive, and typically our anger reduces. Our when we keep talking to ourselves and saying, I'm useless, I'm a fool, I'm not good enough, that will reduce. I'll start finding myself to be good. I'll start finding myself to be a little positive. I'll start finding myself not to be as bad as I thought I was. And then automatically my mood is uplifted and I feel so much better than I would have otherwise. So one of the most important things that I would like to tell everybody is it is absolutely essential for us to find humor even in the worst times. And one of the things, again, which I had started off with is, yes, we use all these nice methods. We use exercise, we find humor, we make myself the subject of the discussion. I try to do things which make me feel good, not only concentrate on stuff which doesn't make me feel bad. But there will be a percentage of people who, in spite of all of this, will still lose their temper, will still feel very down, will still hurt themselves, will still react in a way which is inappropriate either to themselves or the family or the world around them. And then they will need to see a psychiatrist, and they may be needing to get onto medication. And there is nothing wrong with that. And Dr. Google is not a doctor, so let's not believe Dr. Google. Let's believe the doctor who hopefully knows what he's doing and saying and has a fair amount of experience. So if you're looking at the entire perspective of how we should look at things, we look at things in a way which says that anger is certainly a good emotion, provided the manifestation of the anger is appropriate. If we find that we are losing our temper too much, if you're going to find it affecting our whole body and all the systems, which certainly should be avoidable, we should get into a situation where we need an evaluation, go to a psychologist, go to a psychiatrist. If the evaluation doesn't show a psychiatric illness, then utilize the other methods which I have mentioned, which include exercise and the other stuff that I've talked about, the traffic light and things like that. If it does show evidence of a psychiatric illness which needs medication, go and seek the help of a qualified, good psychiatrist rather than listening to somebody who may not be the best person in the world. It is shameful and silly and stupid if we do not look after ourselves. And one of the most important things of looking after ourselves is looking after our own heads, looking after the way we react, looking after our anger, looking after things that make a difference to what our life could be like. I just saw a question which popped up which said
suppressed anger.
Suppressed anger. And suppressed anger is very important. There's no getting away from the fact that some people go the other end of the spectrum. They just don't manifest anger at all. And that is also bad. Anything that happens to too much of an extent may not be the best thing in the world. If you're constantly suppressing your anger and you do not allow it to manifest at all in an assertive, gentle, but firm manner, and I'm just putting it in myself, which often happens in abusive families where, the husband or the wife is extremely abusive and the other person, just to maintain the peace, does not allow his or her anger to get manifest, but kind of, we say, drinks in the anger. It's going to affect your body. There will be a manifestation. You will end up getting blood pressure issues, asthmatic issues, all the psychosomatic issues, and now we're having a huge bunch of psychosomatic issues, are going to get aggravated. And if you already have a physical illness, it'll probably get worse as well. So certainly suppression of anger is not what I'm advocating at all. Just like we do not advocate acting out and breaking things and shouting and hitting our heads, I also do not advocate suppression of anger. We've got to manifest. We've got to talk about how we feel, but in a way which is considered appropriate to everybody and which does not cause a problem to anybody else.
So can you give us some tips on how to release that anger? Because you need to vent it out, right? Somewhere.
Right. So a couple of things. Exercise. I love that. But how do we, yeah.
No,
But
even
how do
I
we,
love that.
yeah, good, good. And so, you're very likely to be much calmer than you would have been if you weren't exercising. So even though we do lose our temper even though we exercise, the manifestation of that is much less. One of the things that we suggest is look at possible options rather than just looking at the obstacles. In today's pandemic area, I faced horrible situations with some of my patients. You have a airline, you have a husband who works for an airline as a pilot, and his wife is an air hostess. Last 5 months, there was hardly anything happening.
Right.
You are used to a certain standard of living. You're paying off huge EMIs. Suddenly, it's not there. You're extremely stressed out. You are in a situation where maybe your company says that they don't want you to work anymore because they're downsizing. Very difficult. You've got kids in college, how you pay for them. You have a situation where your company says, no, we are not getting rid of you, but you're going to come to work 3 times a week. Difficult. So these are all things which cause a problem. Now we can keep looking at the obstacles, and I'm not going to get into this at all because it's a different ballgame altogether.
Yeah.
But what we can certainly do is look at the possible solutions that might be possible. And sometimes writing down in black and white makes a difference rather than just leaving it over here where your mind goes haywire and your thoughts go haywire and you don't really reach a conclusion. It's sometimes better to actually write down in black and white and see that, okay, if I learn this new skill, if I do something different, if I talk to this person, if this is possible, if I do this, sometimes things work out where you never expected that they would. And I'm seeing that in these 5 months of the pandemic, where horrible situations, suddenly there's a ray of light and things start working again. So looking at possible solutions is something very big. Do not take recourse to drink, drugs, cigarettes. That does not help. I mean, I have a whole bunch of people who come in to me and say, oh, I used to drink once a week, but now I can't stand the stress. I'm drinking every day. Doesn't make sense. It's not going to reduce the stress. If anything, alcohol over a period of time will probably aggravate your depression. We certainly don't want smoking. It's going to cause a lot of physical illnesses, and drugs is something that anyway shouldn't happen. So let's avoid these things. They're not going to be beneficial. Talk to your friends. Talk to people. We certainly say talk. And if you don't have friends and you don't have people who you can confide in, then go and seek a counselor and talk to the person who will give you an unjudgmental acceptance of what is happening. And that is important. If I'm feeling down and upset and I go to somebody, my friend, I don't want my friend to tell me, wait, Cassie, what an idiot you are. I don't want that. I want him to accept what I'm saying and say, yes, I understand. Let's see if he can do something. Can you think of something else? And that sometimes, again, makes a difference to the way we feel, the sadness we experience, the anger that is manifest. So verbalize your anger, talk to the person who you might be able to trust, talk of optional ways of dealing with a particular thing, which otherwise gets your anger going very easily. Discuss situations with people, maybe at home if you have a good relationship with your wife or your parents or something like that, or very good friends, or even colleagues. I have people who are colleagues who are closer to me than some of my own family. And I can discuss things with them, especially if it's relating to something that is happening on a professional basis, which gets me down. So all of us have to find the people who will make a difference in our lives. And if we can find those people, and if we can verbalize things with them, and if we can discuss various options, very often we won't get so angry.
No, wonderful, wonderful explanation, Doctor. What is your take on this alternative healing therapies? I mean, I have heard a lot about hypnotherapy, color therapy, art therapy. Of course, I have also done some of these therapies. I've learned those therapies.
Okay, so let me just, yeah. So my take is, since I'm not, one of the things that I would like to see is randomized controlled trials where you take a bunch of patients who have a problem and you subject them to these alternative therapies and you subject the others to other therapies and you see if there is an actual difference, which is reproducible. Very often it's not. You know, if I'm walking on the road and I see a black cat and I fall and I break my leg, it does not mean that the black cat, which I see the next time, is going to make me break a leg.
Right, right.
Unfortunately, sometimes in our excitement of non-scientific, non-allopathic stuff, we tend to hold on to things which may not really be scientific. So I'm not saying don't do the stuff that you want to do, though I would believe that most, if not all of them, may not really have a scientific basis to the good that they're doing, but work as more as placebos. And placebo effects are very well known anyway to be very beneficial. So whatever makes you feel good, go ahead and do it, provided you don't not seek help from a doctor when it's absolutely indicated. When a person has a severe mental illness and then goes for yoga or goes for flower remedies or things like that, that is certainly not what I would recommend. You need a proper diagnosis by a doctor. If going for, bark remedies or color therapy or things like that makes you feel better, fair enough, do it. But also do other scientific stuff is what I would recommend.
So can we use our anger in some productive way also? Because as you said, anger is not always a bad emotion.
Absolutely. When I see things happening where India, where Bombay, where I stay, Mumbai is so, parts of it was so dirty. I got angry, and I can get angry and I can get people to start cleaning up, join an organization, do an NGO, join an NGO which works, use my anger productively. Absolutely. If I see kids who are being, brutalized by their families, work with an NGO which deals with child abuse. Provide pro bono stuff so that you're doing stuff which will make a difference to their lives. We all do a lot of it. Yes, we also do a lot of work which enables us to live and to survive. But we should also utilize the anger that I'm sure all of us experience. And all of us will have different parts of anger. I have family who get into a rage when they see an animal being traumatized by somebody, and they work with NGOs for animals. I have somebody else who has worked with beaches, cleaning up the beaches, and I had the honor of actually going and spending one evening cleaning a beach. It was a lovely experience.
So anger can actually bring the revolution.
Can bring a revolution, provided it is used appropriately. Absolutely. And provided you don't land up doing things which cause more harm than good.
Absolutely. Right. So wonderful, doctor. I mean, you have covered all my questions, and I'm sure even our audience is also very happy. If there is any question still, like in their mind, so now I'm keeping it open because it's almost 6 o'clock, and actually we didn't realize that, 1 hour. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm now opening this forum for all the participants. Anybody would like to ask any question to doctor, then
related to the topic, please.
Yes,
Only
absolutely,
related to the topic.
Absolutely, yes.
Yes.
No, I have given instructions to my team, doctor, don't worry.
Good.
Yeah.
I think I've floored everybody. Nobody wants to talk.
Yes. Yeah, so if there are no questions, then I think I'm sure there should be. No? Okay, great.
No, I just went through the questions on the chat box and I somehow seem to have answered all.
Yeah.
Somebody has asked about childhood bad experiences. Yes, childhood bad experiences certainly will have an effect on the way you emote. It'll certainly have an effect on anger and, maybe crying and volatility of mood. So you would probably benefit by therapy or getting into an evaluation by a psychiatrist who would then suggest what you should do. So if there has been a bad childhood, it's a good idea to just get an evaluation. Let's look at it like this. Lots of kids and adults who had wonderful childhoods can still have problems. Lots of kids and adults who've had bad childhood can be absolutely well adjusted, etc., etc. So it's not necessarily that one has to lead to another, but yes, there is very often a correlation. So we need to look at what we can do to help.
Yeah. So what strategy can be suggested to handle anger in children? There was this one question over
more or less whatever I've said, isn't it? We use the same.
Right.
I don't think we have to really, whatever I've said for adults will work with children.
Right. So I would request,
May I ask a question, please?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so I had asked the question about the suppressed anger. And hi, Doc, this is Preeti here.
Hi, Preeti.
Good to see you.
Good to hear you. I can't see you, but anyway,
Oh,
yeah. Hi.
okay. Okay, so now when you say we exercise, I paint to, vent out my anger on
Sure.
canvas or whatever.
Sure.
And see, but then that happens, and after that you're back to your problems. So you're
Okay.
temporarily venting out your anger on XYZ, the machine, exercise, whatever, but then you're back to your situation, you're back to your anger. So everything is just temporary.
Yeah. I'm not absolutely certain that everything is temporary, because I do believe that every experience that we have changes our lives to some extent. So, Preeti, even though you might think that what you are doing is enabling you to cope with the situation for that particular time, maybe your coping with that situation for that particular time itself has been enough to make a difference to the way you will deal with that situation the next time it happens. So very often we learn from our past experiences, and you might actually realize over a period of time that the intensity of the anger, the frequency of the anger, or whatever else is happening reduces over a period of time.
No, you just keep getting quieter.
Okay, so that's one way of looking at it, and we will deal with it sometime. For those who don't know, Preeti is one of our upcoming artists. She's fantastic, and she has been, she's done fantastic work in painting for mental health. So
Oh,
all of
wonderful.
yeah, so all of you should be aware of this. She has had she's exhibited and things like that, and a lot of her paintings relate to mental health, which is fantastic. Very few people do that. Preeti is one of them.
Thank
Great,
you.
Preeti. Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, Shri, can you just flash our helpline number? So our helplines are open from morning 9 o'clock to night 9 o'clock, and even Saturday, Sunday. So any issues related to anything about mental health, please feel free to contact us. It's absolutely free of cost service. We don't charge anything. It's free of cost. So you can take down this, or you can even Google for Parisar Asha's helpline numbers. And we have a team of psychologists, psychiatrists on board. Counselors are there. Academic counselors are also there. So you can always, use this service. With the great help of Capgemini, we could make it free of cost for everyone. Yeah, so I think let's end our session on a happy note, because I think I'm sure everybody now henceforth they will think twice before getting angry, and they have taken down all your tips. And even the other person, if that other person is angry, so we know now how to control ourselves and not to lose our temper. It was excellent is not the word, doctor. It was really mind-blowing session. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward for many more sessions from you.
Certainly, it'll be a pleasure, Aarti. Thank you so very much. And like I said, your work is fantastic, and the fact that it is pro bono makes it even better in a sense. So keep up with the good work.
Thank
Fantastic.
you, thank you, thank you.
Bye,
Doctor.
everyone. I'm getting out of here. See you guys.
Yeah.
All the best.
Thank
Stay
you.
safe.
Take care.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.